Hi, everybody. Mike Hanberry, Director of Business Development for Webolutions. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Engaging and Delighting Your Audience. I am assisted today, as always, by my colleague, Jack Schneider. I want to say hello to folks, Jack.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, so Jack's going to be, if you have questions throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate. Chat them, use those fingertips, and send them on through. Jack will process that. If you have any questions about the webinar, you have any issues with the webinar tool, please don't hesitate. We want you to get the content. Live attendees, please send those over. Let me take one quick look here. Okay, very good. I appreciate you joining us today for engaging and delighting your audience. I'm going to give you some great content, some ideas to send you off in, and I thought I'd take a little bit of a different tactic here and start with the problems that we confront. And a lot of us are probably screwing up things in some of these ways. This is taken from a survey that becomes important later. So this is a 2018 survey of 2,000 people. 2,000 people who, 2,000 American consumers. So they were asked what they thought, and they gave answers. And so here's the punchline for all of this. When you ask people what you want, you never get the full-on answer because none of us are really capable of getting to the of thinking beyond the box that we're in a scenario like that. Henry Ford once said, if I'd asked them what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? Because the wife could have said, hey, I could have a car. A car was a totally different thing. So it's not about what's possible. The idea of what's possible becomes very limited. And so what we see here is that we have the underperforming products, right, is one. The number one is over-communication. So are we sending too many emails? We're reaching out too frequently. Another one is content or ads that feel overly intrusive or like they're watching my online behavior. So this is where we've gone and made things creepy, right? Because we do retargeting and there's the cookies and that you have to acknowledge on your website. I'm sure that my wife and I are not the first people to have a casual conversation in the same room, as it turns out, is she in here? With Alexa, and then suddenly been served up ads that we've never fingertipped about it, we've never gone overtly to the internet, and then suddenly we have this conversation and things are showing up in front of us that are related to this thing that we might have had even a passing interest in. So that's a little weird for people, and it turns people off. So if we're doing these things, they might be these are the things that are most likely statistically to hurt our brand. We'll do some more about that right now. So I'm going to watch the poll. Polls. We good?
Yep.
Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask you guys to take a think about this. And so I'm believing that people who've arrived at this webinar, some of you are saying, hey, we probably can get an extra 10% of what we're doing just fine. And others are feeling that they're somewhere in here. And so what issues are you facing? When you look at these, choices about how are you turning people off? How are you turning people away with your attempts to engagement? Where are they falling down? Which one of these do you find yourself most described by? Is it over-communication? Is it over-personalization? Has something happened recently? Have you had a PR or a product performance issue that's temporal that seems to be affecting your ability to engage? Is it that you haven't really gotten out of the gate, or that you're not really trying, or is it something else? What issues are you having? What do you really tie it to? And that'll help us formulate some solutions. While you're doing that, I will just kind of move forward here and offer that this is Webolutions. It's Webolutions webinar, and thank you so much for joining us. Webolutions started in 1994. Within 90 days, there being such thing as the internet, we had launched our first website, been doing it ever since. We work with our clients on building effective websites and effective marketing communication strategies. We've done that more than a couple hundred times with different organizations and businesses of all different kinds and sizes over the last 26 years. We've launched over 2,000 websites. We are recognized by Clutch.co, by the Denver Business Journal as being among the best in our industry, and other places. And our purpose, this is important. The reason we do these webinars, the reason we do everything, is because our purpose is to empower passionate people to thrive. Our purpose is to empower passionate people to thrive. So everything that I give you here today is hopefully going to empower you to thrive within your business and do better with that. One of the ways that we do this is with a free communications analysis, our SlideSys website analysis, and that is true also. But we can also offer a free communications analysis, a free engagement analysis, and I've got that to offer. Also, it'd be my pleasure to speak with you offline about that. This is me. 25-year veteran in marketing. I used to be in TV production, but that was a long time ago anymore. And I do teach strategic brand management communications at the University of Denver. My students are adults, probably much like you. And I didn't want anything to do with a 20-year-old me when I went back to it. And I want you to make plans, please, to join us next month for our webinar, our digital marketing strategies to make your organization famous. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll do it on the final Wednesday of March 25. Digital marketing strategies to make your organization famous will be our topic for March. Our agenda for today, which we will move through deliberately, is we will pause for questions. We do have a couple of places here where we'll pause for questions, as I say there on the slide. It says throughout, but I want you to send you your questions as they occur to you. And I've got a couple places here where we pause and talk about and answer your questions, and it's kind of at the middle and at the end. That's how that kind of has. So we will go through engagement tactics. We'll go more into depth about some of those things that we led off with. We will talk about driving engagement through something we call on-brand messaging and what that means, and we'll give you strategies, and I will actually talk to a case study for delighting and engaging the audience. And as a preface to that, I'll tell you, it's not digital, all right? The case study that we use really leaves the digital mindset and is an in-store experience, and it's one that was phenomenally successful for one of our clients. So let us move into our first topic, which is going to be engagement tactics. And thank you for coming along this little journey with me. And so here are some engagement tactics. Most of us are using some combination of these things. We look for engagement in social media. How many people are viewing our Facebook posts? Are we getting likes? Are we getting comments? Are we getting shares? In my class, one of the things that one of the assignments is to assign an engagement score, and you're assigned a brand, and you look at them on social, and you look and see, and you place an evaluation. A like, a share, a comment are all evaluated different ways. They show different levels of engagement. Your email and newsletter, you get a score out of that. Your email and newsletter, how many people are receiving it? How many people are opening it? How many people are consuming the content? Are there click-throughs for all these things? These are all ways that we measure engagement. Most importantly, is that turning into conversions? Is it turning into money or the opportunity for money? Or if you're a nonprofit, I understand that are you bringing people through your program? Is it converting in the way that you need to convert the ties with your overall business goals? Are people reading our blog? Are they visiting our website? Once they get to their website, are they engaging with our website, right? This is an analytics exploration. So how are people finding our website? What content, what keywords are being drawn, are people drawing in there? What's the entrance page? What are where do they go once they get there? Are they consuming more than one page? What's the journey that they're choosing for themselves? And that is a question, by the way, that we frequently talk about with our clients here at Webolutions. That the frequent approach, the standard approach is, I've got this stuff to say about my product, about my service, about me, and I need people to understand this, so I'm going to push this information out to them. The correct approach is a little bit reversed, right? You need to define your persona, you need to understand how they arrive at the website, what they need from you, what has changed in their life to suddenly care that you have something to say, how will they process their information, and that, from there, you can build a conversion funnel and information architecture or user experience on your website that meets them where they are, that allows them to choose the journey. They still get to end up in the place where you want them to end up, but more than being a person who needs their content to be read, we need to put you in the shoes of the customer, of the prospective customer who needs to consume, who has a need and is going to follow their own process and their own journey for getting that information. If we do that, the engagement on your website goes way up, and so do your conversion rates. Podcasts, webinars, face-to-face, these are all ways that we engage with our audience. So these are some common tactics. If there are others, chat them at me. Let's talk about them. All right, and so why, given all these tactics, do things underperform? Maybe it's because you got the megaphone pointed the wrong way, all right? Maybe because you don't understand the medium. This is frequent. Social media, for example, is a great example. Still not in its nascency. I don't believe in the marketing mix anymore. I believe we now understand much more than we did back in 2008, 9, 10, when Facebook was new, about where it lands in the marketing mix, about how it's effectively used among different price points, among different industries, from company to company, with different offerings. But how do we communicate on it? How is it different, and how is it alike? How is it like other things that we do? Maybe we understand when we do email marketing, right? Have we done testing? Have we analyzed our subject lines about who it comes from, when people need to hear from us, and the frequency that they need to hear from us, what content are they looking for from us, and have we explored all of that together? Are we sending it too far? We talked about this. Inconsistently, infrequently, or too frequently, right? And it's not always too frequently. One of our clients is Tony's Meats and Market. I got a couple of my favorite stories that have to do with that client, right? And most of us who do email marketing are definitely afraid, quite justifiably so, of sending out too many emails, sending out too much. and it is the number one reason that people turn you off. Well, what does Tony's put? They put recipes in their emails. And it's an opt-in audience so I have said, I want to get these emails from you. And Tony's publishes twice a week. They send out emails that say, here are addresses. And what I will tell you is that when Tony's is half an hour late in publishing that and sending out that email, the calls come in, the complaints come in. Where are my recipes? How do I know what I'm supposed to cook? What am I supposed to buy from your store? You're supposed to be telling me this. So my point here is it depends on who you are, your audience, and within your industry, and how people think about you. People think about what to eat 3 times a day. They got to have something on the table for dinner every single night. So this becomes important, all right? Whereas how often do you think about your website or your brand strategy? Less frequently than that. You're open to it a little less frequently. So it is incumbent upon us, and likely you, to identify an effective and a cohesive, defined content strategy. One of the ways that we fall down on this is we know what we do. Everybody knows what we do and what we sell and what we want people to buy, and when we've got something new to sell and we've dropped our price on it temporarily, whatever, that's what we go to sell. This is non-compelling. This does not hit us at any kind of an emotional level. It is very difficult for us to get really excited about any of those things. If, on the other hand, we identify our audience, we understand how they think, we understand the breadth of the things that are relevant to us that we communicate about, well, then we've got lots of things that we can communicate with them about. If we sell trail maps, for example, like one of our clients, maybe we can talk to them about outdoors and ruggedness and the spirit of adventure and places to go take your vacations and tips about other things you can do while you're there, and so forth and so on. We can create a community around that type of messaging. So we get broader in our thinking about how we can form connections with our clients, and more on that here later. We don't have roles and responsibilities defined or enforced. we're going to have a content plan, we're going to have engagement plans, we're going to need to generate that engagement. Somebody has to be responsible for writing the content, for publishing the content, for developing the plan, the calendar, the frequency and so forth that guides this. And somebody's going to have to do it, and somebody's going to have to own the responsibility of making sure that it gets done. 99% of blogs fail because we run out of time, because the person who started the blog runs out of time, because maybe the blog worked. And somebody read it and said, hey, I think I might like to talk to you about business. Well, as soon as you get that business, writing the blog post becomes less important than actually nurturing the business. It's the nature of how things work. It becomes very difficult to maintain these things, to maintain Facebook. I have seen entire businesses stop in operations because they figured they had to put something on Facebook today. Who's got an idea? What are we going to put on Facebook? If we've got a plan about when, who, and what, well, that never happens, right? And we adhere to it. So roles, responsibilities, and strategy. And the wrong medium and the wrong emphasis for the audience. Social is another example of this. Still, seems to me to be overemphasized in the communication matrix often. Is this where your audience is going to go for information, right? The next conversation I'm having with people is about the people who contacted us about search engine optimization. And one of my messages to them is going to be, I'm not so sure that this is where your investment needs to lie. I don't know that this is the right engagement platform for you because the data is guiding me elsewhere. So does it make sense? Does the medium and the tactic match up with your audience? With all the things that we can do, is this the right place to go? Is that the right thing? Okay, cool. Very good. I tell you what, before we get into driving engagement through on-brand messaging and defining what that is, let's take a couple of questions. We've got a couple coming in. Here's the first one. When sending promotional emails, how do we make sure our email list is clean? That's a very topical question. I appreciate it. Grab a little water here. Thank you for bearing with me there. When sending promotional emails, how do we make sure our email list is clean? I love this question. I love this question because it's a great way to screw up. You buy a list, which we've kind of gotten away from in a big way here at Webolutions. The lists tend to not be very good quality. The promises and the premise behind which you're buying a list is often very difficult to it's often not actually fulfilled. If somebody's opted into your list, you're probably okay. But even, you're like Webolutions. You've been sending out an email newsletter for 20 years. People move, they change jobs. Jack and I just recently went through an exercise where we cleaned our list. We pulled all the hard bounces out of our database and are trying to establish reconnection with people who have changed jobs and started new companies and those kind of things. And who, for whatever reason, didn't carry the Webolutions e-newsletter subscription when they moved on. It's an error we're going to help them correct. And so you do want to make sure that you can do a lot of trouble. Your domain can be penalized, and the less hygiene, the less hygienic your list is, the greater risk and the bigger problems that you create when using it. And even the legacy email platforms, like your Constant Contacts, and because you're using their platform, your MailChimps will enforce. And if they get too many unsubscribes or jumps or hard bounces, you will be penalized. It's possible that your whole domain gets penalized and makes it difficult for you to do any kind of email marketing. And so after all that blather, the short answer is use an email cleaning service. Our favorite is called MailFloss, M-A-I-L Floss, but there are a number of them. And one of the reasons that we like MailFloss is it integrates very well with our CRM and marketing automation solution, Keep/Infusionsoft, which a lot of small businesses are using. This is technology and tactics and strategies that are available now to the small business that were formerly for the enterprise. That has all changed. and would encourage you to contact us about that as well, especially if you're looking to increase engagement. There are very sophisticated, very good strategies that can be employed using a system like that that will almost assuredly save you time and increase your engagement over legacy systems and email tools. But you need a cleaning system, and we like mail floss, M-A-I-L floss, for those things. Question 2, how often should we be posting on social media? Depends, doesn't it? Great question. Get it often. It really depends. If you are a restaurant, for example, or you are a grocery store, and people think about food 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, you probably need to be posting on social media fairly frequently. If you are not, you're a high-dollar item, you're an engineering firm, probably less frequently. The shorter answer to that is you should be posting on social media, you should be emailing, you should be communicating to your audience when you have something of value to say. And value is not up to you, it's up to your audience. So how frequently and how often do you have something that is going to enrich somebody's life, help them solve a problem that is going to say, hey, I'm glad I got this, I'm glad I saw this. So there's no one-size-fits-all answer on that. And as far as social media is concerned, you don't do it just to do it, you do it for a result. Understand where it comes in the pipeline. In all probability, the statistics show that the vast majority of people who visit your Facebook page already heard of you. It is not the first time they've heard of you. And so that tells us from a marketing standpoint that they are getting to know you. They're looking to see how you interact with your clients. Are you here? Is this a channel that you use? Are you building a community? What voice and tone do you use when you show up? If somebody's gotten you a complaint, did you respond? Did it seem like you cared? Did you argue with them, or did you validate that they had something concerned? Did you accept these comments? Are you driving conversations? Are you pulling it forward? Those are more important, right, than saying, oh, let's post on Facebook today. All right, so I know that's not a clear hand-in-glove 2 + 2 = 4 answer, but that's my response. It's going to take more in-depth, more data analysis, more custom than we can be in just answering that question. But I do appreciate the question. What Google Analytics metric? We'll take this one question. We'll move forward with the presentation. What Google Analytics metric is most important for tracking website engagement? What Google Analytics metric is most important for tracking website engagement? Conversion rate is where my mind goes. Are you driving traffic to your conversion pages? Are your web forms converting? And if they we are constantly testing these things, testing call to action, testing form fields, testing messaging on these things to improve that conversion rate. So if I get you one Google Analytics metric, I want to know what my conversion rate is on my web forms. How many phone calls am I generating? I get one. I think there are a lot of metrics, a lot of data that are available to you in Google Analytics, which can be used. So if I could expand upon that answer for a moment, and instead of giving you one on which to focus, I think it's important to look at all the key performance indicators and all the data that lead up to that. Where are they coming from? How much time people spending on the site? How many different pages is a visitor viewing? What's the entrance page? What's the exit page? Well, if somebody got to a point in the website and they consume more than one page, what was their last page? If I look at that, I can usually tell, I can find some reason why they left without moving forward to contact me or without a conversion. So there's a number of things. There's all kinds of great data that Google Analytics is properly set up can tell you. Boy, I sure hope that helps. Well, we've got some more questions coming in, and we will deal with them. But for now, we're going to just keep moving forward and talk about driving engagement through on-brand messaging. What is that? It's clear and consistent. Meaning, if I talk to you, if I read your e-newsletter, if I visit your website, if I visit your social media page, your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, if I see a post, if I see an ad, if I meet with a salesperson and she gives me a print, something to leave behind, all of that is clear and consistent in the way that it speaks to me. All right, it's got the same voice, the same tone. Are we familiar? Are we professional? Do we talk in first person and third person, or do we say we help you? There's no correct answer, except that it's got to be the same across all of our communications, across all of our touch points in order to be effective. Where there are inconsistencies, that's where we lose people. All right, we lose people when we present ourselves as one way, and then we present ourselves as another. There's a disconnect, and the brain just that's that it can't, but it just doesn't want to do that extra work for you to solve that problem. It would rather go find a resource that doesn't present that problem, that it clearly understands. The relevant to clearly defined target persona. I keep talking about this, so let me talk about what that is. A persona is a defined person who visits your website, who buys your stuff. This is the people. This is your audience. This is the primary person that you want to talk to, and you may have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these different deals, and we may need to craft different messaging strategies for all. Usually, that's not the case. But who are they? How do they arrive? Demographics and psychographics are important to establish and understand, but none of us have ever made a purchase decision because we fit into a demographic. So how are they going to make their decision? All of us drive around. We drive to work. We drive to appointments. We've got the radio on. We're passing billboards and park benches and bus benches with advertisements on it. And if I ask you today, how many of those you saw, you'd say, or heard, you'd say a bunch. You wouldn't know the answer. I'd say, can you tell me about one of them? And you probably could not. Nobody ever can. I can't tell you what ads I heard listening to the radio on the way into work this morning. I drive the same way to work every day, and I pass the same billboards and the same advertisement on the side, and I can't tell you what any of them are because they're not important to me right now, right? So we got to ask what has happened in this person's life to suddenly care that you might have something to say. How are they going to make that decision? What's the process of which they make that decision? And how can we set ourselves apart? Is there something that we can own in the marketplace where we're just not another person who does this? They do it, we do it. If you give me that, it's a race to the bottom, right? But how can what's unique about me that only I can deliver that speaks to you and your needs? And so we clearly define these personas and and engineer communication strategies to high conversion strategies to appeal to them. Informed and data driven. This is what I mean. So there is qualitative and quantitative aspects of developing your persona, and the other thing is to go into a keyword analysis, competitive analysis. Even for those businesses for whom search engine optimization presents a difficult deal. If you're in insurance, my Southern came out there, I said insurance. If you're in the insurance business, or as people in them call it, insurance, if you're in the insurance business, you might want to score on page 1 for Google for auto insurance, all right? But Limu, the Emu, and Flo from Progressive, and Mayhem from Allstate, spend billions of dollars to make sure that you can't, okay? So part of our data discovery is, competitively, can you score? From a search volume standpoint, does it make sense to explore these things? Does it make sense to explore these things? Then you get some actual data against which to make ongoing decisions. It's worth a little bit of investment to save you a bunch of money against failed tactics or to identify. One of the conversations I'm having this afternoon is who called me about SEO, and they're doing fine. They're doing just fine from what I see in the terms that they want to score for. Yeah, they've dropped a couple of spots maybe from what they're used to, but it makes more sense, perhaps, to focus on what happens down the line than to try to do very hard work to rise up a couple of spots in SEO. With that is your short down the line at the website that will drive more engagement. We want to be data driven. in our approach and so on. First, that we have to get data. Unique and differentiated. That's what I mean about saying we are the only. Keyword research often informs this, believe it or not. Looking at competitors obviously informs this. We want to have unique, differentiated message. If we are a commodity, if we are another product, if we are another service that is offered what everybody else is doing, then we drive the decision to be based on price. Brand themes, identity. Brand messaging has a theme. It reflects who we are. It reflects the values that guide us. It has an identity there. It says this is who we are. This is the experience of working with us. This is how we describe ourselves, our product, our service, our offering, our culture. And it helps us arrive at a marketplace. In order to have on-brand messaging, we need to define who we are as a brand, voice, and tone. I mentioned vocabulary. Starbucks didn't serve you a large coffee. Starbucks serves a tall, a grande, a venti, and if you order coffee, they might look at you funny because it's, coffee, but it's a medium roast, right? It takes my wife 5 minutes to order her drink at Starbucks. Unless she goes to Starbucks that's close to us, that's a whole other story. But it is an upside-down, double-shot, non-fat. There is a vocabulary that develops, and you can develop your own unique vocabulary. It helps you stand apart and generate recall. And then there are going to be some things that the industry has decided, the world has decided, this is how we talk about these things, and we need to be consistent with that in our message. If you communicate, yes, you came to us for that, that's what everybody calls it, that's what we do. So our vocabulary standards. And clear and consistent, again, across all touch points and all channels. Do we have employees? Do we have team members? Do we have representatives? Do we have consultants? These kind of things. And there's no wrong answer. It's just wrong if we are talking about one way over here and one way over here. If this person talks about it that way and that person talks about it that way, let's have a standard. Let's be and have everybody on the same plan in the way they communicate emotions and attributes. We define emotions. Every decision a human being makes is an emotional one. I'll give you more on that in just a minute. All right. And the way that we convey those emotions, that we implant those emotions, by understanding what human characteristics, attributes, the brand would have if it were a person. If the brand were a person, it would communicate it this way, and those are attributes. What the heck is he talking about? Okay, so we have our system for this is, and I would encourage everybody to take a look at this, is what we call our effective marketing hierarchy. You might also hear us refer to it as our big marketing method. All these bubbles around the outside are isolated tactics. It all happens to be stuff which we're really good. But the point is that if you go down this road, we're going to try social. We're going to try SEO. We're going to build a website. Much more effective to begin at the bottom of this foundation and move up the hierarchy. All right, so we define, why do you exist? I'm going to tell you in a moment about why we define a brand. And I'll give you a little sneak peek here. A brand is a memory bank that is created over time. Successful organizations, successful companies, consistently form positive associations between what they stand for in the world and moments of happiness in people's lives. If you think about, the Super Bowl just happened. Anheuser-Busch, right? All over. Big, global, ugly company. But you wouldn't think of them like that because they make you laugh, right? They touch your heart, and they communicate to you in a way that is light and funny, and it says something about them as a brand. I'll give you some other examples as we roll forward. So definer, and all that ties back to, why do you exist? Here's another example. Coca-Cola, right? Which does not advertise in the Super Bowl. They advertise in the Olympics. Why does Coca-Cola advertise in the Olympics and not in the Super Bowl? Pepsi advertises in the Super Bowl, right? Pepsi's deal is, we're about fun, right? Coca-Cola is about, we connect people. What happens to the Olympics? The Olympics, every 4 years, is where the world comes together. And we find ourselves every bit as likely to be pulling for this guy from Kenya to break his personal record and sitting on pins and needles as he's running through this dirt road at the end of whatever they call that race, and we have no exposure to this. We're not thinking about this sport for 4 years until suddenly there's this emotional moment, and we're riveted by it, and we're pulling for this guy, not his country, but for the guy, right? To get that, it's where the world comes together. It is the one time where politics war, and so forth are less important than the fact that we are all here together rooting on these young people. And that, Coca-Cola's message to you is we connect people. And that's why they're at the Olympics. That's why Pepsi's at the Super Bowl. What do they believe? Why do you exist? All that guides, all that stuff that stacks on top of this in our hierarchy here. Our effective positioning, how do you win? Well, are we in a red ocean where we're going to fight with everybody for being in the same thing, or can we own a piece of the earth, of the market rather, that no one else can never can take from us, where we can be the only that can offer you this thing. So let's find a position in our marketplace which is unique and differentiated. From there, we can establish key measurements. You've got strategic goals, you've found our position in the marketplace. What are some key performance indicators that we can track and measure? What you measure, you'll achieve. So if we are tracking things that are relevant to our business goals, profitability, revenue, that we're tracking everything that we do against, we ought to be successful in doing that. And on an ongoing basis, we're going to identify key measures, inspiring engagement. We can build the greatest brand promise, the most elegant, sophisticated brand positioning and brand strategy in the world, and if everybody isn't aligned and if everybody doesn't understand the importance of their role in delivering that brand promise, it breaks, okay? So everybody's got to be on board. We need to inspire engagement within our teams and within our audience, right? Within our community that we're fostering, and then mastering communications. And this is really where the crux of our webinar topic today here is in these two: inspiring engagement and mastering communications. What we mean by mastering communications is you can't be everywhere. Where should you be? Where should your emphasis be? What should you do once you get there? Should your message be modified between this medium to this medium? If so, how so? What emphasis should this channel, this tactic take in your market? Should we put this on the back burner so we can focus on a primary, or are they interrelated? Mastering communications, and finally, is systematically improving and succeeding. Once we get good at this, and they're starting to do things, people are going to copy us, and so we have an idea about how we're going to go forward and continuously improve. Okay. I promised you this. What is a brand? A brand is a memory created over time. Successful brands create a memory bank of positive associations between their brand, what their brand stands for, and moments of happiness in people's lives. And I've given you a couple of examples here of very successful products and brands which command loyalty, right? Which people are very eager to engage with. And you think about Apple. Apple competes with other companies, Samsung, HTC, Dell, IBM, which are perfectly qualified and who make the same stuff, and make good stuff, that does the same stuff that Apple products do. And yet, Apple commands other loyalty. When Apple says, we're going to roll out the next version of the iPhone, people camp out. People leave their house, and they take their tents, and they pitch tents. It's not all people, right? But the loyalists go camp out to be the first ones to have that logo on their stuff, right? Because that means something that reinforces something about them. Is it the product? Is it the features? Is it the fact that it takes better pictures, allows you to take better selfies, has 3 lenses, whatever? Is it that stuff that does it? It's really not. When Apple introduced itself to the world in 1984, which is basically what it did with that Macintosh commercial, its line was, we invented this computer so that 1984 wasn't like 1984. What they told you there is we think differently. That is what Apple stands for. And we communicate that in everything that they do. That's what they lead with. They hit you here first. And so by the time they get done telling you how and what they do, you're on board, right? Anybody who says, I believe in thinking differently. Thinking differently is part of my personal makeup. When you think of me, you need to think of somebody who thinks differently. Anybody who identifies that as a self-identifier and sees that as part of their personal makeup is in for whatever Apple is doing. And that's who camps out. That's who pays the extra money. That's who engages at a different level. That's who their brand loyalists are. That's who's more likely to do what? Go recruit more Apple loyalists. Go turn people from being an Android user to an Apple user. These are the people who stand over your shoulder when you're watching the hourglass spin going, you know, my Mac never does that. All right? And they are recruiting new business for Apple. and I gave you the Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola does not come to us by our sugar water. It's delicious. The sodium benzoate and it makes you feel refreshed when you drink it. Our packaging is really cool. Coca-Cola says we're going to hold the hands, teach the world to sing. All right. We are about polar bears at Christmas. We are about bringing people together at the Olympics. We connect people. Everything we do is about connecting people. If you are the type of person who believes that people need to share more and be more connected to each other, you need to drink Coca-Cola. Much broader audience, much more effective communication, much more emotional in the way that they're able to do that, and they command loyalty. Little known fact. If you go to Coca-Cola's Facebook page, it is not now, nor has it ever been run by Coca-Cola. Two guys started it, and Coca-Cola let it happen. They monitored it, and eventually they contacted the guys and said, we think you're infringing upon our trademark, but you're building this community and it's all positive, so we're going to let you do it. And to this day, Coca-Cola does not manage its own Facebook page. There's a whole website, an authoritative website, about Coca-Cola branding, and it's all about Coca-Cola's marketing and the history of marketing. Coca-Cola has anything to do with it. It is run by loyalists. That's loyalty, okay? That's loyalty, and that is that does not happen when we go talk about ourselves as a product or as a service. It happens when we communicate emotionally and we connect with people now who want what we do, but who share our values and who believe as we believe. Why does it happen this way? Because this is the way the brain works. A lot of you have heard a lot of the concepts that I'm talking about voiced by a gentleman named Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. He did a very popular TED Talk called How Leaders Inspire Action. I would encourage you to read and to watch those things. One of the things that he promises in his works is that his golden circle concept meshes with a biology, with a cross-section of the human brain. I couldn't find the cross-section of the human brain in any of his works. Here it is. And so I'm comfortable talking about it because the data says that it's validated. So our brain can be broken down into three main parts. We have a reptilian brain, which is instinct, breathing, blinking, ouch, that's hot. Our neocortex, which is where all the facts land. And most of our marketing, most of our messaging talks about what we do. This is a Cynic thing. We talk about the data point. Fact, data point. It's all true. And it lands in the neocortex. And it sits there until the limbic brain does something with it, right? If we get my golf swing analyzed, and I say, here's your chin position, I'm going to hook up these sensors, and I'm going to tell you how fast you're moving through this, and here's your club speed, your hand position, all of these things, data point. Good. Does that make me a better golfer? The answer is no, it does not. Until my limbic brain says we're going to do something with this. I trust this information enough to put some time and energy toward activating it. And that is the only place in our brain that has any decision-making capacity. Is also the trust and loyalty and emotional center of our brain. And the only conclusion you can draw from this is that every decision a human makes is one based on emotion. Every decision we make is an emotional decision. So that is why Apple is effective in the way that it communicates. That is why Coca-Cola is effective in the way that it communicates, and it is not by accident they've chosen to communicate in that way. Your marketing message probably evolves this way. And I'll use coffee as the example, but I think if you use your imagination, as you step through this with me, you can see how this would apply to your business and your industry. Commodity, right? I'm going to use coffee as an example. I'm in Denver. And once upon a time, when Denver was frontier town, you wanted to buy a coffee, you went to the general store, and you bought gunny sack full of raw green coffee beans, looked like that, right? Looked like that gunny sack, and I could take that gunny sack home, I could take out the beans, and I could roast the beans, grind up the beans, and if I did that today, which you still can, you go to the spot market and buy this stuff, you know, $1.58 per pound, make 32 cups of coffee. There you go. And that's buying it at a commodity level, cheapest or easiest available. The next level up is a product. Somebody says, you know, you don't got to do that. I will roast the beans. I'll grow the beans, and I'll select the best beans, and I'll roast the beans, and I will put those beans. Maybe I'll even grind them up for you, and I'll get some shelf space on a grocery store, a couple blocks from your house, and I'll put it there. And instead of you having to do all that work, you'll buy it from me at a commodity level, you'll buy it from me at a product level. And instead of $1 a half and a pound, you'll pay me $8 a pound. Cool? And she says, yeah, that's a lot easier. Good deal. That's a good value for me. So I'll just buy the coffee at a product level. And the next thing that happens, somebody comes along and says, I'm going to open a diner. You don't really have to make the coffee yourself. You come sit down in my diner, I'll make the coffee for you. I'll bring it to you. I'll put cream and sugar on the table so you can personalize it however you like it. And as long as you sit with me in my diner, my server will make sure that you have more coffee to put in your ceramic cup. And you can just sit there and enjoy it for as long as you like it. Now I'm providing a service, and the service, instead of paying $8 to make it yourself, a bottomless cup of coffee brought to you with a smile is $80 a pound. Cool? And it's not a question that anybody asks because you'd balk at $80 a pound, but it's true. Breakfast places do great. Yes, bring it to me. I'm in for $80 a pound. And then the punchline of this whole thing is Starbucks changed the world, right? We're standing in line at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to pay $125 a pound for coffee. It was not coffee, right? It's all that stuff. It's a personal drink. It's made for me and my preference, not by a clerk, but by a barista, made in this fancy machine that they put in there. And it's not just about that thing that I buy. It's about being in Starbucks and the lighting and the cool colors and the music and the fact that I've got my Starbucks loyalty card and that the barista and the people who work at the Starbucks that I frequent most frequently know me when I walk in. And my name goes on it. And they can wink and nod and know that I'm here for the usual. And it just happens. And all these things are part of the experience. And Starbucks transformed an industry. When they first started, coffee was on the decline in America. The cost of a cup of coffee was 50 cents and dropping. And it was called sock juice. We didn't really like it. It was a morning drink, and that was it. And now coffee is so much more. It's something nice that I do for myself and for others, right? You're going to go make a midday run to Starbucks. You turn to your colleagues at the office and say, I'm running to Starbucks. Would anyone like anything? You just became the most popular person in the office when they could have just made more coffee. Different deal, okay? And in our messaging, we focus on the experience and, more importantly, on the transformation, momentary or life-wise, that having that experience brings to us. Now, it reinforces our self-image. Jack, I didn't warn you that I was going to do this, so I apologize. But here we go. We're going to walk through another technique here. Before we do that, I'm going to take some questions. In a second, I'm going to ask what your favorite movie is. Don't tell me, okay? All right. So we are going to take some more questions before we jump into this. I'm going to do a quick time check. Good time. Okay. All right. Thanks for these questions. Here we go. How should I adjust my email marketing strategy to get the results I need? Excellent question. Test. Do your testing, all right? Formulate what you want to get out of the learning, what you want to learn out of the testing, a greater open rate, a greater deliverability, greater click-through rate. What are we after, right? To get specific what we want, and we form testing strategies to get there. As I mentioned, I alluded to this earlier, right? You might try sending at different times of day, different days of the week, different subject line, different from. There are, what's that stuff you put in our emails, the subtext, pre-header text. Pre-header text, thank you. Obviously, I'm not the expert enough to, but I've got Jackie to help me with it. So pre-header text. Does your system allow for that? Can it be used? Can you test that? Test it with, test it without. Your body content. What's the length of your emails? Are they too long? Are they structured frequently? Are they reaching different platforms in the same way? How many of your subscribers are on Gmail, right, or on Outlook? Because you'll notice that these platforms keep changing the way that they process these things. Gmail went to saying, okay, here's your primary, here's your promotional, here's your other thing, right? I forget what it is, but they've got which one of those things are you landing in? And then once I get to the email, if I open it, how does it reveal itself to me, right? Does the formatting hold? If it's going to an Outlook client, then is it getting shoved over into other? Are you reaching spam? All these things need to be answered. So reverse engineer the funnel, right? And from the conversion point back would be how I would approach that. Great question. Oh, good. Yeah, our goals include talent talent/employee recruitment and retention. Do you have any thoughts about how we might better engage that audience? Okay, now here's one where social comes in. And I just had this conversation earlier today with a gentleman who has gotten to the point where they just buy companies rather than put a lot of effort into recruitment because the war for talent is on, the work is highly specialized, and there aren't very many new entrants into that market. People aren't studying that particular field anymore, pursuing degrees in it, even though the demand for it remains very high. Okay, and here we have a conversation about values. That part of what you stand for, as important as that is, we're going to take this in a messaging context, an engagement context. As important as it is from a client, prospective client, partner point of view to share values, it's that much more important to define those and share those and identify those with the people that you want to come work with you. We write love letters anymore. We don't post job descriptions. We write love letters to the people we want to meet. And what we found on that is that I don't know if I can tell you that the volume of applicants that we get, but the quality is much better. And they all say that. They all say, this is what attracts me to it. There are a lot of people who can say they do what we do. But we're the only ones who can say, these are our values. This is our purpose. All right, and this is how we, and we're inviting someone in to be a cultural add and help us reinforce and grow these values and help us get better implementing this in our internal culture and in the way we carry out our work for our clients. So I would start there, all right? And increasingly, if you look at the generation that is coming out, and there is a generational aspect of communication, I want to acknowledge that. The younger folks who are coming out and into the workplace and entering the workforce don't have to work, don't feel like they need to work at a place that isn't going to appreciate them and that isn't going to communicate and isn't going to be comfortable for them. They're making their decisions, quite frankly, on values. So you define your purpose, define your values, lead with that. And then from a tactical point of view, I think it might go on your website, right? And I see this happening a lot. That careers, which used to be relegated up here at the top or down here to the bottom, are now front and center on the website. Work with us. And so there are actual display and engagement user experiences to be formulated for that audience. And it's a great question. Okay, last question, then I'm going to sprint to the end. Can we take existing content on our website and edit it to better tell our story without affecting our search rankings? Same question for website design. Can we just make changes to our current website? Okay. Okay. I'm thinking here. That's why my hands go to my face. Can we take existing content on our website? In theory, the answer is yes. You have to understand what role that content is playing. When you say website content, we might not be talking about the same thing, right? Because we took a website content, we looked at top to bottom the URL, the title tag, the pictures on the website, the metadata behind the pictures, and obviously the body content. And most people have just think about the body content. So it's important to understand all those aspects are impacting your current search ranking. Okay, and you need to understand to what degree keyword density, content structure, page engagement, time on site, all of those things are impacting your search ranking before you change it, okay? You also need to have a baseline, understand where this page ranks and why it ranks. There's a lot of data that goes in behind that. So I'm sorry, that's another not quite clean answer. But when it comes to website design, I want you to think about what you're asking here. And this happens a lot too. and I get to play the role of the doctor that tells people the bad news. If you have access to the original programmer of your website, and that programmer has a good trail and a good plan and good documentation and understands where all the breadcrumbs lead to and where all the stuff is daisy-chained together, where if I change this, I don't change that, or I do change that, and what fix is going to be made on the site, well, then you got a shot, okay? I will tell you that if your website user experience has been deemed ineffective, if you believe and have good reason to believe that your website is underperforming because of design, that your website content is not drawing a conclusion. We find this frequently. I just had this conversation. Content that is written by subject matter experts and not by marketers is always correct. It is often also very technical and raw and speaks to, we do this, our product does this, this is how we operate, our system does this, and fails to speak to the solution, the relief that I get, the transformation that I need, and that I've come to your website, to your company in seeking. So that content, quite frankly, and this is I think what you're saying, needs to be taken and massaged a little bit to funnel. We understand your problem. Here is how we speak to that, and frequently that content gets replaced at different places on the website. You need to identify what that conversation is. Well, anyway, my point is this. By the time somebody new, especially, or sometimes even the original programmer, does the analysis and goes in and digs into the website and says, I've found the problem and I'm going to fix the problem, and here's how I'm going to fix the problem, you'd be halfway down the road, at least, to having a brand new website that didn't carry any of those problems with it, started with a nice, clean slate, all right, and is built on a current best user experience and best practices and best designs and so forth, because that evolves too, and doesn't carry any of those burdens, throws them off, starts from scratch. Here we go. You're almost always better off thinking about it with a new site. I feel like that's bad news for the people who answer the question, but it's the honest answer. Okay, let's talk StoryBrand. Thanks for all those questions. Well, quick time check, real quick, because somebody's thinking, real quick. What's your favorite movie? Star Wars. Star Wars. That's the correct answer, Jack. Did you know that was the correct answer? Maybe. All right. That's what I have on it. So here's our story. This is a technique that was invented by a guy named Donald Miller. He's a nice man. I've met him. He's not our technique, but creating your story brand. There's a great book you can read called Building Story Brand. That lays this out in much greater detail. This is the plot behind every single Hollywood movie. Why are they giving it to you? Because they figured out this is how people process story, whatever the story is, whatever the medium is on. And so we're not just going to tell your story, we're going to invite people in to create their own. Our hero, in this case, is Luke Skywalker, right? In your story, who's the hero? It's your prospect, it's your customer, and he or she has challenges, right? Probably less intense than the Death Star has been invented, and they're destroying planets, but still very real challenges. And what they need to do is, Luke's life is kind of upside down. They killed his parents. Who's going to bring me blue milk to eat in the evening? What am I going to do with these droids? And he meets crazy old Ben Kenobi out in the desert, and crazy old Hermit Ben says, here's what's happening, and I am going to take you off this rock. We're going to have a plan, right? You need to learn the ways of the lightsaber. We're going to go down into the slums. We're going to find somebody with a ship we can bribe to get us off this rock, and off this godforsaken rock, and off we go. And you will learn the ways of the Force, Luke. You will learn to wield the lightsaber and learn to drive an X-Wing fighter, and you are going to blow up the Death Star, right? And maybe later on you'll go to the dig of a system, learn from Master Yoda. And through all of this, Luke the story is not what Luke's going to do this, right? That's his external goal, blow up the Death Star. Internally, Luke has these struggles, just like you do, just like your clients do. That's what you help them understand, is as they go through this, they are constantly making the decisions. Do they have the courage and the convictions to stand up and say, yes, I am going to do this, and what awaits for them is the transformation to victory or the tragedy of defeat. The dark side takes over, and what it usually looks like for your clients is their problem is the same at the other end, and you must constantly be reminding them in your messaging that this transformation is available to you, or the same old stuff is available to you. We're here to help. We're here to guide you. We got your plan. We're going to help you through it. We're your partner. We're going to walk in lockstep with you through as you achieve this, and at the end of it, you are going to be the triumphant hero as the strategy provided you make the best decisions. Real quick, I know I'm over time, but I promised you a case study. I'm going to ramble through it real quick. I'm going to run through it real quick. We did this. This is the offline version of increased engagement. The results of this were more rebookings. This is something we did for a chain of eye doctors, optometrists and ophthalmologists. Unique about this particular business was that they are not in the mall, but they are competing against lens crafters and the people who have better retail. They were physician-owned, better retail locations. They were physician-owned. They've recently been sold, so that's not true anymore. But they were physician-owned, which meant that put them in medical centers, lower traffic, different demographic, older demographic, by and large, right? So when we did persona development with them, all of this came out, all right? And one of the things that they needed was rebookings. And one of the complaints that they got was the same complaint that you have when you go to the doctor. They don't care. I mean, it's a hostile environment for a lot of it. It's just trying to get the appointment. And then once you get there, can they be bothered to acknowledge that they set the appointment with? It's all this stuff, right? So, and I don't think they were quite that bad, but the complaints that they got, the opportunity areas that they got were very similar to what you and I experienced, okay? And so the first thing we did was establish a baseline. What does the patient expect when they walked into your office? And we walked through all this stuff and we said, okay, here's what a patient expects. And then we said, how can we exceed expectations, right? How can we make an emotional connection by elevating what's possible, all right? So maybe they're looking forward to coming to the eye doctor. That's another thing. If people don't like to go to the eye doctor, he's supposed to get an annual appointment. Most people don't. Well, what if I looked forward to it? What if the experience was so good that you were chasing me down and say, hey, shouldn't I have another eye doctor appointment? Here's what we did. We got that baseline, and we said, okay, let's take it from the patient who's walking in. First thing they see is what? The receptionist, all right? And the receptionist says, can I help you? Well, is he or she not looking at a screen which tells them who's walking in and what doctor has the appointment? Well, yes, in fact she is. Okay, so could she say, Mr. Hanbury? Yes, she could. Okay, could she smile when she did it? Well, certainly she could. Could she even rise to greet the guest? Well, sure she could. Have I added any money yet, Jack? Nope. All right, $0 so far. And have we plussed up the experience? Yeah, I think we've actually surprised people, or at least made it a little bit better of experience. All of these things, right? We picked music. Why oldies? Because these are older people, right? Because if we're do-lang, we are connecting with a happier moment in their lives, okay? They are starting to have subconscious associations with us here. This place gets me. It's for me. And when she tells you, when the receptionist gives you your HIPAA forms, right, that says, do you have tuberculosis? No. They also get what we call a life fit form. And you told us about your life. And you gave us this information, and so when Mrs. Hanbury is about to go see Dr. Jackson, have his battery of tests run, you run through all that stuff, and you come out the other end, you can hand it to the optician. The optician, meanwhile, has had this time to spend with your life fit form, and she sees that Mr. Hanbury goes to formal events, and he makes formal sales presentations. He spends 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day looking at screens, and he is athletic, and he does things out in the world. And so she's able to take this information and say, I've read this information that you told me about me. And so the doctor has given me a recommendation for your prescriptions. And so, given that you need a comfortable, you're as staring at screens all this time on a normal day, I'm going to recommend these frames for a nice, comfortable fit on your day-to-day. When you take your wife out to a nice formal dinner, or when you make a formal presentation, I have these frames to recommend for your formal presentations to dress up a little bit. And for your athletic pursuits, I have these frames to recommend, which are higher in durability, more flexible, and more for an athletic. And so what have I done? I've shown an interest in you, and I've also upsold you on 2 frames. and I'm probably buying all of them because how can I turn that down? Or I've at least got to take one away, right? And keep in mind that I got to come back for these other two. Maybe not this time, maybe for next time. And most of the time what happens is people bought two of the frames rather than three. Sometimes it's just one, sometimes it's all three. And more importantly, the re-engagement happened much more easily. The friction behind rebooking somebody happened a lot more easily. We got rebookings, the needle moved, and everything was important. That is how to engage and delight. I want to offer our free website analysis. Again, a free engagement analysis. We'll also offer that. Give me a call at 303-300-2640. And join me again next month. Join us again next month, Wednesday, March 25th, noon to 1 Mountain Time. Digital marketing strategies to make your organization, whatever we're talking about next month. Okay, so have a good one, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for sticking with me over time. This is Webolutions. My name is Mike Hanberry. Our purpose is to empower passionate people to thrive. Y'all, go thrive. Thank you.